Check this out. Yes, J-Doc, CJ, and V the Gorilla. They call us alternative, yeah, cause we ain't vanilla. We got the hard-hitting facts coming out that Manila. For the truth in the media's afraid of the realest. Check the statement of the deep state, yeah, they faked it. Mainstream news pull the cover up as sacred. Everybody hates it, but who's the one to face it? It's rogue news to expose truth to the nation. Yo, who are the ones that are not afraid to speak the truth? Educate the youth, exposing lies and who they listen to. Hey, they want to call collusion, you ain't got the proof. Who? A lot of people lying now, but what they got to lose? Yeah, but we're not like that, only interested in facts. Making sure we get it right, earn the trust of the mass. Population's only strong when liberty's intact. And as a wise man said, if it's not, it won't last. That was George Washington, by the way.
Yeah. Rogue Nation in the house, peoples. It's the one and only notorious, glorious V, the Gorilla Economist, coming to you live with my main man, El Cuco.
It's Monday.
In the house. Check us out, roguenews.com. Follow us on Twitter at Real Rogue News, and then Rogue News on every single podcasting app known to humanity. If you can't find us, just look it up. Maybe do the search for Rogue Money. We're still in the process of switching everything over to Rogue News, folks. Rogue News. Yes. Indubitably. With that being said, check out our sponsors, mycbdedibles.com, mycbdedibles.com. Whether you need coffee, you need some coconut vanilla. What the hell is that, dude? It's a white chocolate coconut pecan truffle, right?
You got it. There you go.
Say that fast 10 times, bro.
White truffle. Yeah, I can't.
Yeah, exactly. And all sorts of deliciousness. MyCBDEdibles.com. Siege, we got any specials running with My CBD Edibles?
Not this week, bro. No, we're not.
Awesome.
Not this
all right,
week.
folks. So check it out over there, and also check out the Watchers Trade Room. I got to give you guys a new address. We got to put that in the description box if it's not already in there. It's WUT.live. What.live? What? You can pay in dólares. We accept dólares. Every month out of your credit card, or you can pay us in Bitcoin. That's right, my friends. Monthly, every month, every 3-month plan. We got a 6-month plan. You can pay for a whole year in Bitcoin if you want to. Join the Watch Us Trade Room and make it happen for you. You might be scared because they might say, hey, it's not a bull market, it's a blood market. Everybody's taking a bath, but hey, it's a trader's market nonetheless. Profits are being made, baby, being made in a market like this. And with that being said, Siege, what's crack-lacking, bro?
Hey, good morning, V. Hope you had a great weekend. Hope our listeners had a good weekend.
I had a great weekend, man. I was in Central Park throwing the Frisbee around with the family, had a beautiful picnic. Great day in the city on Saturday. It was just, weather was perfect.
Awesome.
If you were in New York City, you know what I was talking about. The weather was perfect. It was excellent. It was picnic weather. I couldn't ask for a better day. And then, of course, it's Sunday, dude. Just run errands, do your thing, get ready for the week. That's about it, dude. Siege, you know what I'm going to do today, bro?
What are you going to do, bro? What do you want to break down?
I'm going to go to Best Buy.
Uh-oh.
I'm going to do it, Siege. I'm going to trade in my iPhone 10. And I'm going to trade in my Apple MacBook. I have that little 12-inch MacBook, which is completely useless. Has like the worst battery life in the world. Okay. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna try out that new iPhone X, the 10X Max, the 6.5-inch screen.
Yeah,
I'm just gonna give it a shot. I'm gonna see what happens.
Yeah, they had something in the news recently where I think it's through their iPay. I imagine that's what it's built in there for. But apparently, like, it's tracking your purchases and your data and all that kind of stuff.
Of course, everybody does that.
I mean, everyone does, right? I mean, that's
track what you buy.
Yeah, that's no hidden.
That's ubiquitous at this point. It's ubiquitous at this point. Hey, that Apple's launching their own video streaming service. It's going to be like, you can be. They're producing their own shows, which is cool because one of the things that Apple's going to do is they're going to make shows that has no foul language, no violence, no sex scenes, none of that. It's going to be clean, family-oriented programming.
Well, who the hell's going to watch that?
Majority of Americans, CJ. Majority of Americans. I know you're into, I know you're into gratuitous violence and brief partial nudity, CJ. I know you are.
11 p.m. and after.
Oh man. Oh man, lots going on today, bro. Lots going on in the world. I don't know where to start with this whole entire thing. Where do you want to begin? I'm gonna place the burden of the decision on you, bro.
Well, real quick, I hate to spend a whole lot of time on it, but apparently over the weekend there's another accusation at Kavanaugh. My gosh, I mean, I have a friend that's overseas right now traveling. He's Drew Thompson. He's interviewed before with us, the Libertarian Ken and everything, and he's just like, it's embarrassing. It's embarrassing to go to the newspaper stand and pick up a newspaper. I can only imagine what people from overseas think about the madness, how embarrassing it is that, especially for the Kavanaugh family, right? I mean, for anyone to go all through this. And now there's a new allegation at his time at Princeton that there was a potential gang rape involved, where he put his penis in front of a woman's face as they were doing running the train on her. I mean, just ridiculous. And now Feinstein's out there saying, I want another delay. We need to delay. We need to get the FBI involved on this. So it's all
bullshit,
man.
It is. It's embarrassing bullshit, because I'll tell you why, right?
I hate to waste time even talking about it. Go ahead. Yep.
See, I spent some time looking at this Kavanaugh fellow, this man named Kavanaugh, right? And you might think to yourself that Kavanaugh is some constitutional scholar. You might think to yourself, he is an ardent and staunch conservative who's going to uphold the values of the Constitution. He's not going to be some far left-leaning Constitution jerking, activist judge. You figure that's not what Kavanaugh is going to be. But contrary, my friend, I think it's a sideshow, dude. I think this whole Kavanaugh thing is just a sideshow. You know why?
Why is that?
I know for a fact Kavanaugh is going to get approved.
Yeah.
You know why? Because Kavanaugh, and dude, let's be honest here. This whole, trumped up sexual stuff that they're doing to him right now, it's a bunch of BS. Everybody sees it's BS. It's garbage. It's complete garbage. The story keeps changing, the whole 9 yards. I liked it, but I didn't like it now. It's just so freaking stupid, right?
Mm-hmm.
Kavanaugh is going to get approved. Do you know how I know?
How do you know, V? How do you know?
I know this, CJ. Kavanaugh is zero, and I repeat myself. And now all the Q fanatics and everybody who thinks there's a master plan going on, and I don't get the 20D chess moves that are being played right now on the world stage, and all this other yada yada yada, so on and so forth. They're gonna say, "You don't know what you're talking about." Kavanaugh's gonna get approved because Kavanaugh is zero, and I do mean zero threat to the deep state. I know that Kavanaugh is going to get approved. You know why? Because if you took Kavanaugh's record as a lawyer, as a judge, his whole legal career, you put it next to the retired Judge Justice Kennedy, there's no damn difference. There is absolute... I challenge anybody listening to me right now. Go forth, pull up Justice Kennedy's career, and then pull up Kavanaugh's career and put them side by side. It doesn't matter. Do you get what I'm saying, folks? That's how I know Kavanaugh is ultimately going to be put in there. Because he's of no legal threat. Now, if he doesn't, for whatever reason, it doesn't matter. Because at the end of the day, whether he gets in or he's not, it ain't going to make a lick of a difference in your life, is what I'm trying to say. This is a political assassination, what they're doing on the guy. It's embarrassing as hell. But the real question is this. Are we being played, CJ? Are we being played? And I think for a great reason, dude, I really believe that we are getting played. I think there is a circus sideshow that's going on right now. It's keeping us distracted. There's a lot of things going on in the world. Russians have green-lighted the S-300 missile defense system to Syria ASAP. Stuff that's a system that they stalled on before because of Israel's request. Now they're going to go ahead and put it up there. The trade war with China could last a proverbial 20, maybe 30 years, you know. It's going to cost, experts are estimating that it's going to cost China 0.9, less than 1% on their GDP. While the damage to us, if the shenanigans don't get knocked off or brought to some sort of reasonable rationality, it's going to hurt us. And then on top of that, we're going to be losing a lot of key interests and allies. But at the end of the day, folks, there's so many things going on. This whole Kavanaugh thing is a sideshow. It's a sideshow, and it's a massive, massive, massive distraction. That's what I think, Siege.
It's like a bad episode of Jerry Springer, right? I mean,
dude, it's really bad. You know, some girl was in Princeton. Yeah, where the hell did they go?
Yeah, it was Princeton.
Oh,
yeah,
Princeton. So she's having a train run on her. She probably is a willing participant. These crazy leftist girls are crazy liberal women are into all sorts of crazy liberal stuff. And so what? So now she doesn't like the fact that she was a willing accomplice in a for lack of a better word, a gangbang, okay? And
if it even
supposedly,
happened, right?
if it even happened, right? So now it's like, dude, it's like, you know, the precedent here is there's this thing called due process. So there's no due process being done here, number one. Number two, the constant invocation of this Kavanaugh thing saying the FBI should investigate it. It is not the FBI's jurisdiction to go investigate this, number one. It is a local problem with the local law enforcement, number one. FBI don't do this kind of stuff. It's not their jurisdiction. So again, the question comes back to due process, right? Where is the due process in this whole thing? No, what's happening is that this guy is being hung out to dry on the court of public opinion. And we simply do not work that way. But the Democrats know this. The Democrats know that it's really not the FBI's jurisdiction to do this. The Democrats know this is a local issue. The Democrats know there's no way in hell to prove that any sort of anything happened 36 years ago. Mind you, 36 years ago. All right? So the Democrats know this. But what they're trying to do, they're not really trying to think about this. This is, again, my point. Are they really trying to stop Kavanaugh from getting into the Supreme Court? No. They're using him as a straw man to build up a psychological type operation where they're trying to get into the psyche of the average libtard voter. That Trump, who is a woman-hating, pussy-grabbing, chauvinistic pig who has an entire cabinet filled with women-hating, anti-gay, chauvinistic pigs, is going to get this Supreme Court guy elected who's also a woman-hating, abusing, chauvinistic pig. So we must all mobilize come, November. Just a few weeks out. I mean, think about it. Just a few weeks out from a midterm election, this thing gets trumped up. They have nothing on Kavanaugh, just like they know they got nothing on Trump. This isn't about fact-finding, folks. This isn't about finding out what the truth is, nor do the Democrats care about the truth. What they care about is perception, especially the fickle perceptions of what is termed to be the low, quote-unquote, the low information voter. That's what they care about. They care that if their community planners that are out there in every large city mobilizes every libtard man, woman, child, illegal alien, and dead person, that they mobilize them and bring them to various districts for mass voting. That's all they care about. It's a power grab. Again, and that's how I know Kavanaugh is going to be elected. He is of no threat to the Democrats. They know that. The deep state is not threatened by Kavanaugh. Kavanaugh is he's a sheep-dipped member. He's in there. He's a useful pawn. So I'm not worried about Kavanaugh. Not at all. But what it does do is the added value of a psychological operation. When you have polls that are coming out right now that there's percentages of Americans that are gradually increasing week after week, month after month. Now they believe that there was Russian tampering in the U.S. elections. That's a problem. You see, all this is happening on the psychological side. I don't see a major death blow that is about to hit these libtards yet from our side. I don't see President Trump coming out with a haymaker and saying, I'm going to knock these guys out. The only thing that I see, and this could be a good sign here, CJ, is that the UK begged Trump not to declassify Russia docs, cited grave concerns over the Steele involvement. The British government expressed grave concerns to the U.S. government over the declassification and release of material related to the Trump and Russia investigation, according to the New York Slimes. President Trump ordered a wide swath of materials immediately declassified without redaction on Monday, only to change his mind later in the week by allowing... again, Siege, why? What did he do later in the week? He changed his mind and allowing the DOJ Inspector General to review the materials first. The Times reports that the UK's concern was over material, which includes, quote, direct references to the conversations between American law enforcement officials and Christopher Steele. It makes you think, who the hell is Christopher Steele and how high up in the MI6's rear end is this guy? The former MI6 agent who compiled the infamous Steele dossier, the UK's objection, according to the former US and British officials, was over, revealing Steele's identity in an official document, regardless of whether he had been named in the press reports. All of a sudden, the quote-unquote British Empire, the defunct British Empire, which, folks, if you get a chance, watch the movie The Spider's Web. I've actually downloaded it from YouTube. It's free to watch. Harley Schlanger made us aware to this movie months ago. It's available. Go to YouTube, The Spider's Web. It is about the secret British Empire. It is about how they switched from being an empire of overt, out there in the open military empire, to a banking / covert / shadow empire, which still has its fingers all throughout the world. You don't believe me? You explain to me how the Queen of England can stop and freeze the Parliament of Canada. You got to understand how the United Kingdom, quote unquote, works. The influence in Australia, New Zealand, Canada, Gibraltar, the British Virgin Islands, various other enclaves throughout the world, they have a massive influence in. A massive influence. These are banking interests that are in the city of London that are pulling the strings. The haunt of dragons, folks. The haunt of dragons is none other than the city of London. So the question becomes, why are they panicked over the Steele dossier? Number one. And number two, why the hell is Trump saying, yeah, sure, Mr. IG General? Why don't you have a look-see first? And then we'll release it. I mean, that's ridiculous, CJ. It's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. So the question becomes, you know, you have the left that and the deep state that everybody says is dead, that have literally created a massive media push and a massive psychological operation for the last 730 some odd days. A massive psychological operation where now swaths of people within the country are starting to see, hey, maybe there was some Russian collusion, as dumb as they are. Swaths of people are starting to see that Trump is he's a woman hater and he's an abuser and he's going to fill the Supreme Court with women haters and abusers and we're going to lose our right to abortion and we're going to do and he hates gays and LGBTQRSTUV -- apostrophe insert line here gender. He hates all of that. We have to stop him. We have to stop him. Feminists and beta males unite. And that's what it's looking like, Siege. That's what it's looking like. And meanwhile, in the land of adults, CJ, what does China just did, right? What did China threatens us with? What do they do?
Well, obviously the new tariffs. When you're talking about the ones that went into place today, or you're talking about the Are you talking about the tariffs or the sanctions? Because I keep getting confused on
yeah, it keeps getting worse. Let's talk about the sanctions, man. Let's talk about the sanctions before we jump into the tariffs thing. Siege, what the hell are we doing, bro?
Yeah, well, so today goes into effect a whole other massive amount of tariffs into China's made goods. They threatened. They said, "Listen, the U.S. said don't do this because it's going to be harsh if you do something." So right away, China says, "Okay, fine. We'll only do like estimates 20 billion." Let me bring up the article real quick. So yeah, so this is going to affect everything from routers, computer parts. In fact, Walmart put out an advisory letter last week, issuing it to politicians, stating specifically that this latest rounds that's coming through is going to really hurt consumers and place additional tax burdens on businesses. So the goal here is obviously is to try to bring back jobs to America. That's the ideal situation, but as you and I know, that doesn't happen overnight. Companies were given huge tax breaks, incentives, and yes, they have invested some of those funds into the United States, but for the most part, they went back directly into stock buyback. So where's the end game with these tariffs, and especially when you take a look at the minimal impact it's going to make to China versus the middle class voters that Trump needs. And like I've said numerous times, that people vote their wallets. So when they see the danger of consumer prices going up, when they see the prices going up at the pump, doesn't make very good headway going into 2020.
No, it doesn't make any good headway at all. It doesn't make any good way at all, because it's like, when we start doing this and nothing's become of it, this is going to go for a tit for tat. And when you are a country that is nothing but a paper empire, when you're a country that is a paper empire built on paper, that has fake fictitious wealth, fake fictitious stock markets, fake fictitious any sort of real resources, any sort of real industry, filled with a huge swath of undereducated people. Pretty harsh realities, right? Pretty harsh realities I'm talking about and describing here, right? When you're talking about that, when you're talking about the fact that we really have not much going for ourselves, we really don't, right? That what should be used as a tantamount time to masterfully seek and leverage partnerships and investments for our country to make us great again, to make our economy, our physical economy, humming like it's never hummed before, to bring real wealth into our nation like it's never been brought in before. We have a chance. Rather than doing that, what we're doing is we are shunning our partners. We are shunning those that are trying to help us. We're shunning those who are trying to create and be partners in our wealth, partners in our growth, partners in our future. And this is a huge problem, CJ. And I think that, like with Jack Ma and the other experts who said, this trade war can continue 20 to 40 years unchecked. But and that's at a best case scenario. Okay, that's at a best case scenario, right? At most, Trump has another term, which I believe he will get another term. And after that, then what? And then what? Who knows what kind of maniac is going to come in after him? Who knows what's going to happen in the next 5 years in this country? Who knows what's going to happen in the next 2 years in this country? Who knows what's going to happen after November in this country that could really screw things up? Folks, when I'm saying that, hey, we are hanging on by a thread, that we have one foot on the precipice and another on a banana peel, I kid you not, this is not looking good. And I want solid concrete, not some hearsay, not something you read on a chat board somewhere and you're telling me that this is some 20D, 50D, chess move over here, whatnot. We are looking for tangible, verifiable action that needs to come to some sort of conclusion. And CJ, what is the day of destiny here, man? What is the day of destiny? What's going to be the clear demarcation? Isn't that, CJ, we've been hammering this since day one, bro. Yay, we won the election. Wonderful. Our guy's in. But the battle just started. We always say, midterm 2018 elections is huge. It's huge. People want to know. Okay, and I've talked to the constitutional experts, and CJ, I'm going to have a lady on. I want to get her on our show. She's amazing. She's a constitutional scholar, someone who actually teaches to Supreme Court judges. Okay, Supreme Court justices have taken her courses in law. She is brilliant. Chris Ann Hall is her name.
Awesome.
Yeah, she's amazing. And one
Yeah.
of the things that she advocates, and every single scholar who understands, who has, number one, has awoken to the fact that our country has been hijacked. Number two, knows the Constitution and the constitutional law and the historical context surrounding how our Constitution and our Bill of Rights came to be, and what is the form of government that our founding fathers have expressed. What they have done, and what all of them have said, is this: you want to corral the federal government. See, the federal government is a symptom. It's a symptom. And see, excuse me if you're hearing some noise. There's some construction happening outside of my office.
No, I can't hear it. You're good.
All right, beautiful. All right, so the federal government, okay, is a symptom. It is a symptom of us. It's a symptom of negligence. It's a symptom of a population that has gotten laissez-faire and decadent throughout the last several decades, and allowed ourselves to not be vigilant and watch what is happening to our nation. So in order to change this parasite called the federal government, you have to kill it. And how do you kill it? Every single one of them, CJ, every single one of them has said this in unison. You have to kill it at the local level. You have to kill it at city council. You have to kill it at the county offices. You have to kill it at the state level with the governors, with the sheriffs, with the state senators and legislators. You have to kill it at the local level. That's how you corral federal government. This is why, folks, okay, we are so looking outward into national elections, and we're missing state-run campaigns that are so vital, so important. And I keep hammering it over and over and over and over. And I don't want to hear, well, all the votes are rigged everywhere. No, it's not rigged everywhere. If we can win in states, we can win in certain counties and states and whatnot, it goes a long way in pushing back and ultimately recapturing the captured operation that is the United States of America. That's what we need to do. It's that simple. And so while all the shenanigans are going on, while we're being lambasted, folks, I'm telling you right now, if something needs to happen, it better happen now. That's what I'm saying. If something needs to happen, it's got to happen now.
Right. No, I agree. I have, people email me, they send text, contact me on Twitter and everything. They're like, CJ, please listen to this, take another listen, a different perspective and all that. And I appreciate that. I do, because I still keep an open mind, going into these things, and it's important to have different perspectives. But unfortunately, time after time again, these interviews, these shows, they continue to recycle the same information, the same details of things that we've known, for eternity. They keep rolling up and going to the pedophiles, the email, the server, the Uranium One, the FISA memo. We know we're not going to learn anything new from this. So the next course of action, after we spent 2 years talking, debating, congressional hearings, investigations, is some legitimate action to do some of these things. So the transparency that we want. I watched a recent interview, and it started out talking about transparency, that's why things are going on right now, is because there's a demand for transparency. And I get that. I completely agree. But then the interview shifted into, well, that's why all these indictments and everything is sealed. This is, well, you can't have both. You can't have transparency, but yet, McCain was offed and given a suicide pill and all this stuff. We demand that. We want the transparency to understand exactly, what happened, who's being held accountable. And it's time for those actions and those steps to take place. I think we're through with the conversation, the debating part. We know who the guilty people are, right? But so we see this happening in the blogospheres and the chat rooms and the social medias. But then you look at reality and you see this trade war that keeps escalating, and we don't want it to become a hot war, right? But that's where it's kind of leading to, because now you have implications where the United States is trying to deal with foreign countries and specifically tell them, look, you can't purchase your weapons from here. You can't do this. You can't do that. So where does that escalate? And that's where we're landing right now. So we have, the United States upset. China's purchasing, fighter jets, things from Russia. We have the Saudis, who are going to be also, this is crazy. The Saudis are going to be purchasing the S-400 missile system from Russia. And so now, where does that leave the United States? Where does that leave us? I just understanding these things that are real. We see the S-400s being deployed to Syria now because of their plane that was shot down. So these things are all concerning to me. V, very concerning.
The biggest concern. I want you guys to think of it this way: from the deep state level, from the military incompetent complexes view of things. Right? Why are they getting their panties in a bunch over a few $1 billion that is made by Russian arm dealers? Think about it: a sale of Su-35s to China. I think they ordered like 20 or something like that, 20 or 30, right? To start off with, right? A sale of those fighter jets to China, a couple $1 billion. It's not even a drop in the bucket for the military industrial complex, right? Because they're making trillions. So it's not a drop. Why are they getting their panties in a bunch about a sale of a few S-400 systems over to the Saudis? Why are they getting their panties in a bunch over that? Why? I'll tell you why. Because every single one of those weapon systems that are sold are systems that are game changing. Those are weapon systems that can checkmate anything we have. I want you to think about this, right? China develops a quote-unquote stealth airplane. They're, 5th generation J-20, okay? Flying Dragon, whatever the hell you want to call it, right? The J-20. Pretty interesting, pretty cool looking plane. It's kind of different, right? It's got, canards in the front and whatnot. We know the weakness in China's avionics is, aerospace industry. It's always been effective radar systems, number one, and number two, jet engines. Okay, so it's weak engines. So the J-20 is made. The U.S. doesn't really, they're not sanctioning China. They ain't doing nothing against China. They're not trying to sanction manufacturers who possibly would have sold them maybe certain chips that could be used in the aircraft, certain computer systems that are used in the aircraft. They're not sanctioning any of that, right? No one's mad about that. No one's mad about that. Possibly, there was maybe some German involvement in the development of the J-20. No, nothing, right? But all of a sudden, China just gets a handful, mind you, a handful of Su-35 super flankers. And if you haven't seen, you should go on YouTube, type in Su-35 Paris Air Show, and watch the maneuvers that plane puts on. It defies logic. It defies logic. All of a sudden, they go ahead and they place an order for a handful of those Su-35s, and boom, they want to sanction China. They're grabbing a conniption fit. Why? Because every single one of those systems are checkmateable. They checkmate the United. They nullify any sort of advantage that the U.S. could have over the air. Everybody knows that. Every real military analyst knows that. I talked to Dr. Carl Kopp. Okay, certain guys who are experts in the field of aviation and defense. The Su-35 is unmatched. It's unmatched. Everybody knows it. Everybody who's worth the salt knows that. Now, check this out. The S-400. Why the hell did the Saudis buy an S-400 instead of the Iron Dome from the Israelis or a Patriot missile crap system or the THAAD? Why did the Saudis buy the S-400? Why?
They know the capabilities.
The capabilities, number one. And number two, when the Saudis, I'm gonna theorize here. This is my theory. And I think it's becoming fact, and we've seen this trend over here. When the Saudis do flip out of the petrodollar and switch into settling in the yuan and the petro yuan with a gold trade settlement, when they switch to the New Silk Road that Global South is going to be a part of, on the Gulf Cooperation Council, the GCC, when they switch out of U.S. dollars for settlement of petroleum, they want to make sure that Uncle Sam don't invade. They want to make sure that Uncle Sam don't send a drone, a cruise missile, or any sort of aircraft that could deploy. No, they are ready just in case. The Saudis are like, yeah, we'll go along with what you need to do. By the way, we're going to have some S-400s just in case you guys try to do something funny. and the Russians are happy to give to them. Why are the Russians happy to sell them S-400s? They didn't give it to the Syrians, but they rolled out the red carpet for the Saudis. Why were they so happy to do that? Why was the Russians so happy to sell Su-35s to the Chinese with a full multi-decade worth of system support and avionics support for the aircraft? Right? Why were they willing to do that? Why we're seeing some sort of easing, so to speak? How come Saudi money has stopped flowing into ISIS hands? That's 20D chess move, and the U.S. government was no. There's a swing happening here. They need these weapon systems in place because there is a swing happening between Saudi Arabia, Russia, Iran, China, Turkey. Okay, Turkey. There's weapons deals happening with Turkey as well, right, CJ? Am I wrong or am I right?
Absolutely.
What you're seeing is a new Eastern realignment, a new trade party, a new global wealth party, and we are not invited because we cannot simply get our act together. You want to talk about embarrassment on a grand scale? This is the type of embarrassment that I'm talking about on a grand scale. When we see a Supreme Court justice or someone who's trying to try out for the Supreme Court, who's at the end of the day, he's of no threat to nobody in the deep state, but they're going to go ahead and hang him out to dry. They're going to go ahead and try to stonewall and slow down his election as much as possible. Okay? As much as possible. They're trying to slow him down as much as possible. Why? Because the psychological value of the narrative is more important. The political narrative is more important than reality. And meanwhile, in the land of adults, trade deals are being done. This whole trade tariffs and sanctions on China is going to probably affect less than a percentage of China's GDP. And even then, CJ, folks, China's GDP is slated to grow 6.9% this year. Real growth. It's ridiculous. All the while, and here's the thing. I'm now going to tie this all in together for you guys, so hopefully it makes sense for y'all. I think you guys will get it. This is going to put the chokehold on the dollar. OPEC ignores Trump's demands to drop the price of oil. Now I'm going to show you why this all matters. Tweets by U.S. President Donald Trump demanding that OPEC boost its oil output as a means of lowering prices worldwide has been met with silence by the global fossil fuel energy bloc. Over the course of a Saturday and Sunday, OPEC and non-OPEC Joint Ministerial Monitoring Committee, the JMMC, meeting in Algiers, the bloc alluded to Trump's demands without naming names, simply acknowledging that customers have sufficient resources of crude for the present. Remember what I told you, CJ. Remember last year. Remember the year before, where I went on and I predicted back in July of 2015, I said oil prices will drop below $50 a barrel. You're going to see it even hit a low of $39 a barrel. And voila, just as the great Magilla Gorilla himself has predicted, it has come to pass. And now the oil prices are up because of all the things that are happening in the world. Now, here's a question. I said this. Remember I said this? The glut, everybody's pumping. Libya is pumping. All of the Nigerians are pumping. The Saudis are pumping. The Qataris are pumping. The Kuwaitis are pumping. The Iraqis are pumping. Everybody's pumping. Everybody's jumping, baby. Everybody's pumping. Everybody. Russians, everybody's on full tilt pump. Drill, baby, drill. Everybody's pumping oil, right? And I said this years ago, that the glut and the supply of oil in the world is going to be so much so it's going to last for years, at least the next 5 to 10 years. You could expect very low oil prices unless something is starting to happen in the dollar. Well, CJ, guess what? Guess what, folks? The glut of oil, the overproduction of oil, is still there. How do we know this? Well, the JMMC, as well as OPEC, as well as Global South, as well as Sinopec, Rosneft, and other companies, and Gazprom, and all these other companies that are in Russia and China and the rest of the world, understand, they know, they verified this audit-wise. They verified this, that, yeah, there is a glut in oil. There's plenty of supply. As it says, OPEC member states, including Saudi Arabia, as well as observer nations, including Russia, suggested increased oil supplies might be possible at a future date, but did not offer a direct response to the urgent requests from Trump or his administration to boost supplies, a political play that has served the U.S. president in the past. The reason Saudi Arabia didn't increase more is because all of our customers are receiving all the barrels they want. They're not asking for more. So, Siege, let me ask you this. We're a capitalist society, supposedly, and I put that in air quotes, right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
Why are we trying to create artificial supply when there is no demand?
It's political.
Saudi's like, well, you want us to increase production, but everybody's swimming in oil right now. How do I know that? Look at the way that the index. What the hell's the index name, man? It escapes my mind right now, but it's the index that tracks global shipment, right? Mm-hmm. Let me look it up real quick. Right, global shipment. Yikes! Hold on. Global shipping index. I forget. It starts with a B. I used to quote it all the time. I'm just brain. Anyway, it's Monday morning. Don't hate me. Anyway, you look at global shipment; it's still down. You look at a petroleum shipment; it's really not moving. Why? Because there's such a damn oversupply of oil. Literally, you go out to Singapore, out in the bay. In Singapore, you have oil tankers that are just parked. They're parked because there's a massive oversupply of oil. Saudi's like, well, there's a lot of oil everybody has, and no one's asking for more. So how are we going to do that? Energy analysts know that Trump's desire to bring oil prices down through the heavy-handed tactics may likely have an opposite effect, particularly in regard to Tehran. OPEC and non-OPEC have been able to deliver lower oil prices, asserted spokesman for the Consultancy of Energy Aspects, who added that will only get harder as Iranian exports and production starts falling fast. The next OPEC ministerial meeting in December as the bloc's Vienna, Austria headquarters. So there's a glut of oil. So why is the price so damn high? People say speculators, and you'd be half right. What if I told you a dirty little truth? What if I told you a dirty little secret? What if I told you there is not as much dollars chasing oil as there used to be before? There is not as many dollars chasing oil as before. Are we seeing the beginning of the end of the petrodollar? I would say so. How that is going to play out and when it's going to play, I don't know when it's going to play out. You can take your time clocks, your sands of time, your whatever you want to use to measure time, your Rolex, whatever. Throw it out the window. Because we're no longer in a world that is chronologically driven. We're living in a world where events and massive paradigm altering events, paradigm altering events, are event driven. Paradigm altering events are event driven. That is where we are. And that's the real deal of it. See, your thoughts.
No, I completely agree. I mean, I think you broke it down perfectly. Take a look at the two major arms, the two major power that the United States, typically does in terms of influence. You think of military, right? The number of years that we provided weapons, ammunition to the Israelis, to the Middle East, and you witness that global change that's occurring. And Trump did. Trump came in and he tried to ramp up U.S. production to come back to state that the United States is the number one leading producer of oil. All that was very strategic because those things impact the way that, typically most relations work. But unfortunately, this time it's different, V. And I think you nailed it, tying it back to the petrodollar, that the dollars are drying up. The dollars that we're going to purchase, all these oil contracts we've seen, with China coming aboard, with Venezuela, the major shift that's occurring there. That's the next challenge, and it it's just right south of us in terms of Central America and the oil production there, and that's where the next battles will be, and that's why you see a lot of China, Russia cozying up to Venezuela. Where it plays out, who knows? You're exactly right. Who knows where that's going to land? But by far, when you take a look at what's happening in the news cycle in terms of the economy and how strong things are, and record low unemployment for all races, and wages are up and all this data. But yet you see something, and we're not the only ones talking about it, V. I think when you listen to the majority of other news outlets, alternative news outlet, they are talking about this specifically, this potential of recreating this scenario back in 2008, except for this time it's going to be a lot worse. So yeah, we have to pay attention to these things geopolitically and how they directly affect the economy. And where it plays out, we'll have to just wait and see. V. I wish I had a fortune teller to tell me specifically, what's happening. I know he has a pretty big following, and again, I think that we have to keep all different perspectives in mind. But the gentleman that predicted Trump's presidency, Mark Taylor, is Mark Taylor, the Trump prophecies, the Trump prophecies.
I have no idea.
Yeah, Mark Taylor. Yeah, he, I think he has a movie coming out in October and everything else like that. It looks like we're going to be booking him to come on and talk about, the movie, the Trump prophecies, and like I said, I know he has a pretty big following. So,
yeah, it'll be interesting to actually sit there and question this guy. It'll be very interesting indeed. Retailers warn tariffs will hurt consumers. CJ, what is that all about, bro? Let's see how these tariffs are starting to getting like whose strategy are we following? Are we following what's best for America? Or are we following crazy Peter Navarro?
Well, most people, if you think about the elite, right? When you think of people in Washington, D.C., and they've spent their entire life, living off of government, these price increases don't impact them. These are people who pay other people to go do their shopping for them, that they leave a credit card on file and they probably never even look at that. So they don't understand what that impact has in terms of the price index, the general pricing in retail stores. And B, I've shared this numerous times, but I have a pretty good eye out because of my retail background, and looking at the price index and taking a look at what retail prices are doing. And Walmart's not the only one that's feeling this. I mean, across the board, and I challenge every one of our listeners to be monitoring this. But you would think they used the oil. When was it that oil was up over $100 a barrel, and everyone started raising their airline flights, everything went up. Logistics
back in the early aughts,
logistics, bro. Yeah. So they took that price index and they leveraged that. But V, what happened? What happened when oil did go down to $50 and $60 a barrel? Did they lower their prices, saying, "Oh, our logistics and shipments is a lot lower now, so we can lower prices to help"? No, they didn't do that at all. So now they're leveraging this again. So if you take a look at those price increases that have happened the last 6-7 years, we're probably looking on average anywhere to 10-15% inflation, which is just as crazy. And that just shows all the signs that the dollar is and with the the tariffs and everything else going to be applied. And Walmart's right to signal out this, hey, people better be prepared, because we're going to feel it, right? The middle class is going to feel these price increases, for energy, for our consumer goods. But these elitists that reside in Washington, D.C., they don't care. That's why they continue to do these things.
Yeah, exactly, man. Exactly the whole entire thing here. How this is the reality people need to come to. It's everybody. When Barry Soetoro got elected, right? Right, the left went into their messianic fervor, right?
I remember Oprah, Jesse Jackson. They were all crying.
My God, everybody's crying, and I remember when the kids in schools were singing songs. They were replacing the word Jesus, and they're putting Obama in there, right? I mean, it was sickening. It was absolutely sickening. This guy was like the second coming, right? I know for a fact that Donald Trump's doing the best he can. Okay, I know he's doing the best he can, and he's fighting an absolute monster that's been in existence for over 200 or over 100 years. He's fighting an absolute monster. Okay, I will tell you this. Okay, this is the fight for our lives. People are thinking that there's going to be some messianic deliverance here. People are going to think whether it's God himself or space aliens is going to come in the last moment and help the Trump administration and the good guys kill the deep state. People are thinking that the worst of the worst characters that are out there are going to be done away with because there's this massive plan. There's this massive secretive plan working in the background that's going to go ahead and put the kibosh on the deep state that's been in existence. No. Folks, let me explain something to you. We're in the fight for our lives. There are some very, very, very powerful and deeply entrenched interests that have been steering this country for the last several decades. They are far from weakened. They are far from dead. If you want a witness of that, look at the media. Look at what they've been able to get away with. Look at what they're able to say. Have you ever seen somebody being deplatformed? We've only heard of deplatforming, CJ, in whispers. CJ, can you find InfoWars anywhere now?
No, just
their website.
Domain and app, that's it. Yep.
And at what point does that website or that hosting company says, yeah, gets the letter in the mail and says, hey, don't host this site anymore?
Yeah, even Apple pulled their app from.
Yep. They don't exist on any platform anywhere. We tell people to go to Minds. There's like 10 people there. Tell people to go to BitChute. There's like 5 people over there. Y'all hanging out on the internet ghettos, and y'all love it. But you'll bitch and complain about the fact that you're in the internet ghetto and how they're stealing your freedom and blah, 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 and this sort and that sort. And we hear about, legislation is coming against social media companies and how they're censoring this and censoring that. Where's the legislation? You see, the only power you have is to start winning locally and to win it big. Or there's 2 options. Either we win local elections or we're going to civil war. That's it. That's the only 2 options you have, because the third option you don't want. The third option is absolute and total economic ruin and a complete loss of liberty. And once the flame of sacred liberty has been lost, the flame of sacred liberty lost, it's gone forever. Because, folks, let me tell you this. It took 10,000 years of human development to get to the point of 1776. It took 10,000 years of bloodshed, trial and error, genocide, empires, all sorts of chaos and tumult to get to the experiment that was launched in 1776. We lose that, and it's gone. We have a population that does not even know what the Constitution is. They don't know the Bill of Rights, but they can tell you all the genders, all the 54, 72, 103 genders that are out. They can name all those. They don't know the Constitution, but they know what Tom Brady, what his stats are. They can tell you all you need to know about the history of the Dallas Cowboys and the New York Yankees and so on and so forth, but they cannot tell you and show you and have a discussion with you and say, hey, you know what? Yeah, you know what? The Federal Reserve is illegal. IRS is illegal. These are illegal corporate institutions that have no bearing on the United States of America. Institutions that have been incorporated on the island of Puerto Rico and used to subjugate us as slaves. Don't want to tell you. Don't want to tell you. But they can tell you everything else. They can tell you what's on tonight. They can tell you who's won Dancing with the Stars and all this other stuff. So you see, folks, we have a problem because we have a population of idiots. We lose this. Look, I'm saving I'm saving my real full opinions and everything that I got to say, Siege. I'm holding until after this midterm election, because I tell you right now, Siege, come the midterm elections, if the Democrats and the Republicrats, two wings on the same dragon, and the deep staters start winning seats left and right, hold on to your butts. That's all I got to say. Go ahead, Siege.
No, I completely agree. Yeah, it's time for some action, some things to happen. And again, we've heard the same. We've heard all this before. We know the facts. We know what's transpired, and so now it's time to see some legitimate things on the surface for us to keep things moving forward. And I agree exactly what you said on as far as your local elections. Those are the people that are they're going to raise your property taxes. Those are the people who are going to raise your state potential income taxes. So definitely pay attention, what's happening locally, V.
Exactly. And with that being said, folks, we're at the end of the show. Subscribe, like, comment, share. I think we're going to have the trading guys today. Cowboys flying out to London. He's got some meetings out in the UK. I think Z and myself and maybe the man simply known as Frank will probably be on the Watch Us Trade. Folks, we have the Watch Us Trade YouTube channel. Go there and subscribe. Subscribe. We're going to be posting here as well. The Watch Us Trade YouTube channel is over there, so we're going to be doing exclusive shows over there. It's going to be pretty cool. So subscribe to that channel as well. And with that being said, Siege, take it away, brother. We're over now.